What's up, everybody? It's Corey, host of the Grease Pole Podcast. Christmas morning has officially arrived. It's goddamn Super Bowl Sunday. We've waited 2 weeks for this day to finally get here, right? It's been nothing but media, circus, bullshit, which is what the Super Bowl usually is, but it's different when it's your team and you're locked into everything. So, absolutely, it felt like Christmas Eve was last night. You wake up this morning, Santa come down the chimney, and it's hopefully going to bring the goddamn Lombardi back to Philly for the second time. So before we wrap our Super Bowl coverage, we wanted to kind of give our final prediction for the game tonight. And before we delve into that, hit the subscribe button. If you're an Eagles fan, welcome. But even if you're not, NFL Draft is my cocaine, so there's going to be something here for everybody in the coming months. So that said, let's delve into the matchup that is Super Bowl 57. And look, for the Eagles, the key to win is going to be playing to their strengths. And, you know, Nick Sirianni, to his credit, going back to last season, kind of reinvented this team on the fly, right? And leaned heavily into becoming a running team. And after not being able to run the ball at all in the first half of the season, then became the number one team in the NFL in rushing. Comes into this year with that identity, and then you've got Jalen Hurts, who has drastically improved as a passer, and those two things kind of coming together created a perfect storm of 14-3 and finding ourselves in Super Bowl 57. But in this matchup, I think it's important to lean into that ability to run the ball. First of all, get your offensive line moving, right? Best offensive line in football, they are at their best when they're moving, when they're getting to the next level, when they're mauling dudes. That's what this offensive line does better than anybody. And, you know, when you have guys like Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson and Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson and dudes like this that can get on the move and put people on their ass, it's a way to take the heart away from an opponent. Now, this defensive line for the Chiefs is a different animal than what they've seen, right? Lane Johnson neutralized Nick Bosa in the NFC Championship game with a fucked up groin, okay? And yes, Bosa was messed up as well, but that's how good this team is. The difference is this Chief defensive line, you have Chris Jones, who is playing at an Aaron Donald level, and you also have Frank Clark, who tends to turn it up a notch once the postseason gets here. So you've got two guys to contend from, which makes it a little bit more difficult to scheme away from like you could Nick Bosa. And Steve Spagnuolo likes to move both of these guys around as well on the defensive line, in particular Chris Jones. So that's going to be tough to deal with. But if you run the ball, you get that momentum with your offensive line. You get them moving forward. And most importantly, you keep 15 on the fucking sideline on the other side, right? Mahomes can't do shit if his ass is on the sideline. The clock is your friend in this game. I don't think either team's going to run away with this thing. We've said it a couple times over the last 2 weeks on this channel. So running the ball, working that clock, that's going to be your friend in this matchup. So, and again, nobody does it better. Nobody runs the ball better than the Birds. So I think the best way to increase your odds to win, if you're the Eagles, if you're Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen, lean into that and run the hell out of the ball unless you find yourself behind and in a passing situation. For the Kansas City Chiefs, their key to win, I think, is going to be Andy Reid, his screen game. And Eagles fans of a certain age, we know all about Andy Reid and the screen pass, right? Nobody does it better than the Andy Reid offense. You know, for years in Philly, it was Brian Westbrook who was fucking lethal on a screen pass. And you've got, with the Eagles' defensive line, the best in football as well, the most depth. You know the deal. 4 guys that have reached double-digit sacks, 70 plus this year, almost tied the 85 Bears for the all-time record. So the best way to neutralize that is to get the ball out quickly if you are Patrick Mahomes. And, you know, this defensive line, rather, the Eagles can also be run on. So that wouldn't surprise me to kind of see Pacheco, McKinnon, guys like that for the Chiefs. And they're going to see if they can kind of run the ball on this defensive front of the Eagles. But that screen game allows Mahomes to be effective. It allows him to kind of find his rhythm. You get to the outside on the perimeter, and you can take the Eagles' strength out of the game in that defensive line. I think that's something you're going to see a lot in this game is Andy Reid's screen game to Isaiah Pacheco, Jet McKinnon, shit like that. The storyline of the night, I believe, for the Eagles it's simple. You got to stop Chris Jones. This dude is on a fucking tear right now. Think Aaron Donald last year, the playoffs leading up to Super Bowl 56 against Cincinnati, and he was the motherfucker that ultimately ended the game with a strip sack of Joe Burrow. That's the level Chris Jones is playing at right now. He's always been a force, but this year in particular, he's been especially dominant. And it's one of those things, again, strength versus strength. The Eagles' offensive line, you can double him, but he's a piece that gets moved around a lot. So you've got to account for him on every play. And if you're the guys, Jeff Stoutland University, 95 is the one motherfucker that you got to neutralize because he can bring pressure off of the edge with Frank Clark. He can collapse the pocket on you. He can make life very, very difficult for Jalen Hurts. And much like a lot of quarterbacks, Jalen struggles under pressure. And the thing with Jalen is he'll try and extend the play. He can sometimes hold the ball a little too long. And if you're able to have a guy like Chris Jones that can collapse that pocket and bring that pressure from anywhere along the defensive line, that is going to be a problem. If you can neutralize 95, it's going to go a long way for the Birds in tonight's game. Chief storyline, the fucking ankle, right? Anklegate. And it's funny because I've heard, water cooler talk or whatever, right? Mahomes had the ankle. Is he fucking faking shit like this? And so is it real or is it a pro wrestling angle? Is he selling it, right? And I tend to find myself, it's a little bit of both. It's a mixture. I think a high ankle sprain is nothing to fuck with, okay? But, I do think there is probably some truth to the fact that, it's cool to kind of play it up a little bit, maybe, because it creates that narrative that you've seen from Tony Romo and guys like that. Oh, what a warrior he is and all this shit. And, I mean, look, I'm not questioning Mahomes' mental. I'm not. But we'll be able to tell tonight whether or not the last 2 weeks have been a little bit of a sell job or whether it's been legitimate. Because if it is an issue, he's going to be less mobile and it's going to be obvious with that Eagles defensive line. Again, Super Bowl 55 against Tampa, Vita Vea and those boys, they collapsed that pocket on Mahomes, and you could see the matchup problems, right? You could see that coming, and that's what made it a long night for Mahomes. This Eagles defensive line can absolutely do the same thing, in particular if Mahomes' ankle is legitimately fucked up. The matchup to keep an eye on for me, I think, is Hassan Reddick versus Andrew Wiley. Andrew Wiley is the weak link of the Chiefs' offensive line. Hassan Reddick is the fucking strength of that Eagles' deep defensive line. And Reddick's playing at a Reggie White-esque level right now. You know what I mean? He's somebody that when we put out our prop bets last night, I think Hassan Reddick to win MVP was plus 3,500. If you've got an extra $100 that you can afford to fuck with, I would put it on Hassan Reddick. I honestly believe that he's going to have a big impact on this game and could possibly tie Reggie White's record for 3 sacks in the Super Bowl from Super Bowl 31. 3 guys have since tied that. But I think he's got a chance, especially going up against Andrew Wiley, who, again, is, if there's going to be a Dusty Rhodes, leaky forehead situation along this Chiefs offensive line, it's going to come from the edges. It's going to come from Orlando Brown against Josh Sweat. Orlando Brown with speed can struggle. Cincinnati, Lou Anarumo exposed him in the AFC Championship game. Josh Sweat, that quick first step, how he can bend that edge, that could be a problem on the other side for sure. But Hassan Reddick is the heat seeker in this defense, and him against Andrew Wiley, it could make shit a long night for 15. And on the flip side, if 77's able to contain Hassan Reddick, then it's going to go a long way into, it's going to be advantageous for KC in this matchup. We've got to do this. Final prediction. Give me the Birds. 31-23 over the Kansas City Chiefs. And look, I see this game very much back and forth. I do. I don't see it ever being above a 10-point lead either side. I don't think either offense is going to be forced to completely abandon the run and pass. I don't. And it's going to be interesting because these are the 2 MVP finalists, right? And even though Mahomes edged out Jalen Hurts, and I kind of think it's bullshit, but again, I'm biased. I'm an Eagles dude. So these 2 dudes are here for a reason. And this matchup, it's in a lot of ways it's strength against strength. But those matchups in the trenches, like everything else, are going to dictate kind of how effective these quarterbacks are going to be able to be. Can they function at 100%? And I will say this, the difference is Mahomes is the Chiefs offense, okay? Those receivers they have kind of cheeks. And so if Mahomes isn't able to get in his rhythm and do his thing, it's going to be a long night for Kansas City. Whereas with the Eagles, you've seen the Birds win games when Jalen Hurts hasn't exactly lit up the box score, right? 160 yards, 170 or whatever, and he's able to get out on those design runs. The Eagles' offense is loaded everywhere, so it makes life easier if Jalen Hurts has a long night, if that Chiefs defensive line, if Chris Jones and company make it a long night for him, there are still ways in which the Eagles offense can be effective, whereas that's not the case for Kansas City. And I think that's going to end up being the difference in this matchup. What do you think? Leave us a comment in the comment section below. Let us know your prediction, and we'll respond to as many as we can leading up to the big game. Pre-game drinking is about to start soon, so if you're the same way, cheers to you. Enjoy it. May everything go down smoothly. Hit that subscribe button, won't you? Especially if you're an Eagles fan, welcome. Even if not, again, as we said at the intro, a lot of NFL draft content to come. That's my crack. So there's going to be something here for everybody. I promise you that. But appreciate you taking part. Drop a subscribe, drop a like, whatever it is that you want to do. And we will see you next time. Happy Super Bowl Sunday, Eagles fans. As always, go Birds.